wide variety of experience in product. What I found myself earlier this year was back in the job market. I built what I wanted to build as a startup, and I was looking for my next opportunity. So what we put together today is a hybrid session. I'll talk through Claude Cowork skill that I've built out, available on GitHub. Put up a link on that, where you can download it for free, as well as my Steam panel. We have put together yes, some are more skilled than others, but we're going to be talking about our experiences on both sides of the job search, folk from the hiring side as well as on this side, how you can maybe stand out, as well as maybe kind of know yourself a bit more, and how do you make yourself a good candidate, right? So before I get started, shout out to our sponsors, especially UT for giving us the space to meet in, as well as Pragmatic Institute and ProductCamp. So great folks. So how many of you have experienced the grind of the job search, right? It's painful, right? And what are the things that make it really painful, right? One is you have a ton of different folks that you're talking to, companies you're tracking, and interviews at different parts of the process, right? And when I started doing this, I kind of looked at it generically and said, okay, I'm a B2B SaaS PM. And if you go and like search for that at LinkedIn or job board, you get hundreds of hits, right? And you go and look at that and say, okay, well, there's thousands of applications, right? And what I came to realize is I haven't been really in the job market for over 10 years. I just said, hey, I don't think this is going to work, right? I've used Claude and AI extensively in my company. Founder with not a lot of resources, so I really decided that, hey, I'm going to use AI to automate as well as personalize jobs, right? A few things that the skill that I'm going to show a link to do is you can set up a list of really target companies. So, AI is not going to let you go and find a job for you. But what it's going to do, the skills it really helps you do is say that, how can I focus my search and track my search as a PM, and really use that as a way to track what's converting, right? So if you think of a job search as I'm going to start here, look at getting through an HR screen, look at through a hiring manager, through say a panel interview, a case study. Yes, I've done all those things. and then at the end, you may not convert or you may get a job. But you need to be able to track and say, okay, well, how am I doing? If I apply to 10 jobs and I didn't get to the next round, well, that's a problem, right? Let's look at it, right? So this is what it helps you really do. A few things I'd like to call out here is that the resume customization that it allows you to do, spend some time on making sure it doesn't hallucinate. To put in a generic prompt and say that, hey, customize my resume to this job, you'll end up with a different person, right? That's not you. And what you want to avoid, because what the last thing you want to do is present yourself as something that you're not. And the first time you come up in front of a hiring manager, your credibility is lost, right? So, a few things that this does is it creates a gold version of your resume, of your achievements, and says that, hey, when you customize, make sure you use this and not just pull it directly from the job resume, right? From the job posting, right? Second thing is that built into this is an ability to just create a dashboard locally. You can track it using your browser, but if you're more of a, hey, I want to use Notion, you track it as a pipeline, you can do that as well, right? It just depends on how you think and how you want to use it. So with that, this is an example of the pipeline it creates for you on your system. You can go into Chrome, click on it and see where you are in the process of different companies. Here's a link to the GitHub. Please download it. If you're not into Git, like I am, you can just download the skill, go into Claude Cowork, and install it, and you'll get access from there. Everything that from the skill is free, right? Except About Cowork is $20 a month. You know, if you're in the job market, you don't want to be spending a lot of money searching for a job, but I would say that that's the best $20 you're going to spend. So, with that, Tyler, do you want to move down?
Yeah, let's do it. I think you should take a job at that doctor. Closer to people. All right, awesome. Thank you everybody for coming here. This begins the panel portion. So overall we have 15 people add in a vote from the QR code. And so these questions are going to be from the highest voted theme, as long as with some of the questions that were asked. So we're going to first start with introductions, and then we'll get into everything. So I'm Tyler, I'm a product manager who's searching for a job. Have about 6 years of product experience, and yeah, again, I'm the searching persona, but I'm also kind of moderating the session. I'll pass it over to Justin to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Justin, lead product manager. I've searched in the market for senior, lead, and kind of VP product roles. It's kind of experience across what you're looking for, depending on the level of experience where you're at in your organization.
All right, let's give since I introduced myself already.
Jeremy Bagley, Principal Product Manager at WP Engine and Moonlighting with fractional CPO stuff. And I interviewed Tyler a long time ago. Recently, we've been offshoring a lot of our product work, so a lot in Europe. So lots of new team members in my organization right now.
All right, awesome. Thank you. All right. Here. So this is going to be one mainly for Edwin here, but the others feel free to talk as well. How are you using AI to prepare for your interviews? Have you actually seen it move the needle? So you mentioned some of the context that you had from there, but have you noticed an increase in your opportunities from using the Claude code and all of that?
Yeah, so for me, what's really changed is the company prep and weaving in more recent headlines or even pain points into how I talk about myself, right? So if they had an acquisition or sometimes they even have layoffs or they have mentioned AI transformation, I kind of use that as a headline in my resume, as well as in the first 90 seconds when I talk to a recruiter or a hiring manager, I do that in. And I see visibly someone just sitting back, they kind of lean in and say, oh, wait a minute, this guy has actually listened to me, right? And the other piece there is that using the skill, you can go and actually find folks that are in that area. It's not always a 100% match what it'll find, but then you can reach out to them and they'll connect with you, because it's, hey, I want to learn more about the company. Like that's pretty low stakes, and they'll talk to you and they'll kind of lay out and say, hey, these are all my challenges. So you just write it down and then you read that in, and that personalization is really helpful.
Yeah, I would add, I'm sure everyone here is using Claude for various things or one of the models. If you're not yet using it for strategic conversation prep, that is an area where you can start changing the way you approach people. So creating personas of other people that you have to interact with. I'm mostly doing it right now with executives that I have to interact with to preview my work and poke holes in the things that we're doing ahead of time so that I can shape my thinking. And really, you can help yourself, or some of the questions that are in the doc were about areas where people don't feel confident. If you've got a specific area where you don't feel confident about something, using an AI agent, interacting with it around that thing to help build your confidence or think strategically about a conversation you're about to have so that you're not caught on the back foot is super helpful.
Yeah, I put on that it has gotten good enough that you can say, I'm meeting with this person at this company, go to LinkedIn, look at their resume, and then give you specific things to ask. They gotta get to the point of, about the company, about their role, what their perspective is, comes across as a much more educated person, not visually people that are standing
similar kind of way, I'm curious for those that are interviewing product management candidates, how can you tell that the candidate has used AI to prepare for their answers? Does that help them or does that hurt them?
It depends. I work for a big insurance brokerage that's got very different parts of the business, and so if you get down the wrong pipeline, you come to me with different products than we have. That's a good thing because it indicates that you've researched about the company. It's not a great thing though because you're looking at a reinsurance or an insurance. So you do want to be kind of thoughtful about it, but it's always better to be prepared even if you're not quite prepared. And I generally start my interviews with tell me what you know about this company, because that's a thing that we don't want people to get hung up on because we ask somebody to talk about our reinsurance or about our insurance brokerage.
Repeat the question again.
Yeah, sure. Can you tell when a candidate used AI to prep their answers? Is it good or bad?
I got lost in thinking about his. I was like, so I would say if you're using it at a surface level to do the bare minimum, then that's probably going to be obvious, right? It's probably going to come through in the conversations you have, because what you want to do is enrich. You're an individual. You're going to bring unique perspectives to whatever position you're joining. You're valuable in that way. They can't replicate you, right? But augmenting all of us with AI is something that they're going to do. They're going to expect everyone to do, right? How are you getting faster? So I think it's true of every weakness that might be on the list. Don't be confident in your vulnerability about the things you do and do not know, and don't think that AI is gonna just magically help you to overcome those vulnerabilities, right? What interviewers really want to understand is, are you intellectually curious about your own vulnerabilities and searching out ways to mitigate the negative impacts of the things maybe that you don't do well?
I have a quick, how do you show people that?
I'm trying to figure out how to coach that right now with a couple junior PMs. It is tough, I don't have a good answer for you on
I can maybe
other
take
than modeling.
a stab, yeah. When I started my current job, it was the first time that I was kind of operating in a product trio with an engineering manager and a designer. I'd never worked with that kind of design function before. And my boss at the time was like, "You ever done this?" I was like, "No." I'm excited to see how that goes. But that's going to be a thing that we should check in 60 and 90 days to make sure that relationship is getting built. That comes from a little bit of self-reflection. What am I good at? What are the situations that I've been really good at, not so good at, I've had experience with, but have not had experience with? That's just what you can reflect on. And then when you're kind of doing the job searching process, the interview process, constantly checking to say, is this a thing where there's a lot of really good fit, or there's some good fit, or we need to highlight some things? That comes from having a conversation. I think AI maybe helps with that, but a lot of that stuff comes from how that particular org operates. AI, thankfully, is not. So LinkedIn doesn't have that information yet, so being kind of honest and open with the interview, through the interview process can help uncover those things.
Justin, that's actually a great answer. I had a problem with executive presence and was kind of being coached on that. So I knew it and I could speak to it, and if I had the space to write down, I'd give thoughtful framing and everything else. But if I was in a room with the executives and thinking on my feet, I would stumble and get way too technical and get into the weeds, and people are like, we don't need all that, we need you to be up here. And actually what really helped me was modeling and coaching. So I would say find the person who does it the way that you want to become better at, and then have those conversations with them, give them all the information you can about the conversation, whatever interaction you had, and then help them help you refine.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Awesome, very good. Yeah, so for the next one, this is kind of for everybody, but imagine that you're either that someone's about to go into a recruiter screen. That's the context for the question. As a hiring manager, what are some of the things that have made candidates stand out to where you're like, ooh, I definitely need to interview that person based on what the recruiter said. And then I guess for Edwin, like, how do you prepare for those screens, and is it different than like for the actual hiring manager? So whoever would like to start.
I'll be candid, I'm scared, right? Like, I'm not searching right now, but God forbid if I was on the search again, like, how do you stand out in today's, you've got robots preparing the resume, you've got robots reading the resume, like, no, there are no people actually talking anymore unless you know someone, and that's where the networking, the relationship thing comes in. So I think one of the things that I was thinking about is product discipline in general has always been about the problem, and for a long time we were figuring out software, or maybe you're not in software, maybe you're in other types of products, but a lot of us are probably in software type solutions or tech solutions to solve problems. And I think that is, well, I don't think that's dramatically shifting with what we're seeing, right? But the problems are still there. So I think in the new world, part of what we're all gonna have to figure out is how do you actually solve the problem if the main barrier is no longer the technology, whatever technology space you're in? Well, then it becomes like, is it relationships that are the barrier right now? Is it understanding the market that's the barrier right now? So I think as in the product craft, I think we have to evaluate, and we just got out of the metacognition session, several of us. I think we have to think about the way we're thinking about the problem, and really, it's not just the technology anymore, it's like, what is the barrier to getting this thing across the line? And then we have to be willing to put on whatever hat it is to get that barrier out of our way to solve the problem, because we want to deliver value ultimately.
Yeah, I think one thing I'd like to add there that has helped me, I mean, I'm tracking everything, as you guys can tell in the first 5 minutes, and what helped me really improve some of my initial screen to hiring manager conversation was, for a recruiter, you don't want to tell them your life story, right? They're speaking to dozens of people a day. I mean, I've had recruiter screens that are 15 minutes long, right? And if you get like, hey, I went to school here, and they're like, oh. So, and I've sometimes seen that happen in Zoom where like the eyes start glazing over and they're like, you lost it, right? And then you're just one other check person they talk to. So in that first 90 seconds, you really need to get to why you are relevant to that role and get to any barriers that they have preconceived for that position, right? So if you're a B2B person and you're looking for a B2C or whatever, B2C or whatever, you just speak about it head on, and then you bridge to what your experience is and what you think you're looking for, right? It has to be the first 90 seconds. And what I did was I just wrote it down and like recorded myself and sent my transcript to the thought. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's saying that, hey, you missed out on the fact that you don't have explicit consumer experience. I'm like, yes, that's intentional because I don't have that, but I'm bridging it in this way, and that's how that sets it, right? So you don't want to lie, and you just want to say, okay, I've worked at scale, that is a consumer scale, and that's why I think I'm a good fit for this role, right? So that's what's helping. Sure.
I just wanted to add to that, if you haven't heard of Rebecca Okamoto, she does like the how to powerfully introduce yourself. She has a TED Talk. That's Rebecca with 2 C's, Okamoto. And she does that where, it's a very short couple of sentences or even one sentence to have that impactful first interaction.
Yeah, and I'll just pile on. That recruiter wants you to be right for that role, because if you are, their job is done, right? Like they're like, great, I'm done. So don't approach the conversation with fear of like this person's trying to keep you from getting this job, but rather like, hey, if this is a good fit, both of our work here is done, right? We can move on. And I think reframing it will help you connect to like the art of the possible with the recruiter and be more present in the actual interaction.
So I'll just add maybe 1 or 2 points. I'm coming from the context I'm hiring right now. I'm hiring in Europe, unfortunately. But I think the 3 tips I would definitely recommend is when you are having that recruiter call, if you want to specify certain points, do tell them that make a note of these, because they are writing and they are listening. and they don't capture all the points, so do mention them. These notes come to in Workday or somewhere where we filter as a manager, these notes come to us, and your resume and the notes are the only way to know the person till you get to an interview. So making sure you capture those notes or tell them to capture those notes are extremely helpful. And then second is, if you're writing anything in your resume, make sure you can stand for that. I've seen a lot of AI-made resumes right now, and then there are a bunch of terminologies thrown in there. When you start talking about it, candidates struggle. So please know your stuff and then tell that to the recruiter so you have better chances to interview.
Thank you for that. All right, we have a little bit less than 10 minutes, so I think we'll have probably maybe 1 or 2 more questions here. So the third highest post that we had was related to succinctly answering interview questions. And so I guess I'll start with like the interviewers. When a candidate over-explains or buries the lead, what's going on in your mind and how does that affect how you score them?
Yeah, I think it comes down to the role that you're looking to hire for. If it's a senior person, my definition of senior is someone I can put in front of an executive that can own a fairly meaty product area. If they can't succinctly tell me what that problem area is, how they're going about solving it, what their impact in the past, problem, red flag. Doesn't mean that they can't do the job, just means they're getting some coaching around it. If it's a more senior role, someone that builds an organization, you still get a little more leeway to be able to talk about things and get to the more touchy-feely people stuff. But again, like, there are just people, I did an interview yesterday with an engineering manager, this guy does not shut up. That's a problem. It's tough when it's over a phone, right? Like, I think when you're doing Zoom calls, it is weird. We're still not quite as people, like, evolved from face-to-face and the kind of social facial cues. So that is, you get a little bit of a discount for that. But you want to be able to make your point quickly, get it across, and let the other person speak. If you're talking too much, problem.
Yeah, I would even add, I think there's going to be more opportunity to connect in person for a lot of stuff, because I think the tide is shifting some, even though our workers are spread out all over the place. Don't be the person when presented with that opportunity is like, no, I only do virtual interviews, because I think that would be immediately. But I think it goes back to what we were saying about being in that I mentioned about executive presence and being able to talk succinctly about things. Practice. Find someone who can help you, model it for you, and help inform your practice. And then take in the interview itself. The worst interviews I've been in were where on both sides, I've been the interviewing candidate where the recruiter would not shut up. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, do you want to know anything about this? And then I've had PMs that I've interviewed where they just went down a rabbit hole and never checked with the audience to say, uh-oh, are we still together? And I was not with them anymore. I was just like, oh my God, I can't wait for this conversation to be over because we are way off topic. And actually, they had blinders on. They didn't even get to what I wanted to talk about because they didn't check back in. They didn't even know they were like way down this tangent. And so we were completely far apart in where we were and what we wanted out of the conversation. So that was unfortunate. But I think those are things that can be addressed. Practice, find a mentor, take a beat, and even if you need to clarify, I think that shows a lot of maturity. Say, I want to make sure I'm thoughtful about this response. What do you mean by this? And instead of being overly anxious to answer their question.
Yeah, there's a difference between succinct and terse. I would say yes or no.
Right.
You want to understand about that person, your experience. I think giving yourself a beat, being comfortable with silence while you construct an answer, and then making sure that you're bringing the person along, will all show a level of maturity and comfort with your thought processes that reflects well.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I'd add is that, so I've got this story bank of, stories I've used in interviews, right? And one of the things that I've done is that the same story.
Sorry.
one of the things I've done is actually created 3 versions of the same story. One is very high level for a recruiter, because they don't wanna know, like, these guys have been saying that, they don't wanna know what the sausage is, how it's made. It's like, hey, is this person toxic? Yes, no. Is this person worthwhile for a hiring manager? So it's very high level. The same story has got more detail around your actions for a hiring manager. And then if you do jump in, you're gonna end up talking to an engineering manager or director, and they really dive into how you interacted with engineering, right? So we prepare to say not, hey, one story doesn't fit everybody, because they're looking for different things, right? And that's helping you get to more final rounds, right? And then you're building this picture across the entire panel that they're giving you, saying, hey, consistently this person hit all those marks, and then because you're painting this picture in their head for what you are.
Quick follow-up question on that. So with all of this great AI prep and practice that people get, how do you really cut through to find out if someone's toxic, if they prepared how do you really cut through to make sure it's representing their real experience?
I think that's tough. Yeah. No, I think it's hard. I think you can do a reasonable job with good screeners, but you still need to bring people in, and I think you end up moving people towards further along the funnel and then getting an action on this person's going to be a fit. Once you kind of, at the same time. I don't think there's a great answer there yet.
But a lot of what we talked about relative to trust in the one of the things you're trying to do is build trust and rapport in the conversation, and so I think being vulnerable about things, being confident in the things you're good in, being vulnerable about the things you're not, and then giving a thoughtful response to how your value proposition aligns to the value proposition of the role and will help them be successful. I think that will all help to build that trust and rapport with the hiring recruiter, the hiring manager, hopefully the recruiters align with the hiring manager.
Yeah, so I've used it 2 ways, right? One is, I think generally in the engineering round is when it gets real, because you're going to be working with engineers day in, day out, right? And sometimes I've had interviews where I've come through it and saying, I don't think I want to work here, right? Because there was, I'm not going to name names, but there was a startup, and this engineering director said, hey, I just want this PM to do presentations and do demonstrations. I'm like, interesting. So I think do I want to be the person that's going to educate this entire organization around what a PM is? Probably not, right? And after 15 years in PM, I don't think I want to do that. But maybe that was a good, lead for someone else to go to do that, right? And it works the other way too. Like some folks have gone super deep around. I prepared several stories, and we spent 45 minutes talking about one story because the manager wanted to know, hey, this is a tough space. Are you going to just sit, write a requirement, and then walk away, and 2 weeks later and say, hey, is it done yet? They didn't want that kind of person, right? And no, you work in there and you help them make the trade-offs, because they're going to go develop your product, but you have to help them navigate that.
Awesome. So we have 2 minutes left. Only thing that I would add to that is I do a lot of mock interviews, and if anyone wants to do a mock interview with me, happy to do that. That's where I figured out a lot of the things that I was too verbose in. See me after, I'm happy to do that. So we have time for one more question. Anybody from the audience have a question? Yes.
Hey, thank you, all valid points. One quick question. If someone is trying to pivot from one family to another, how do you balance showing your strengths and vulnerabilities, especially in this
Family, you mean like from product to engineering?
let's say program to product or BizOps to product?
Yeah, I think my advice to people always there is it's generally easier to find a product role in the company that you're at or in the sub-industry or whatever, because you can bring that domain expertise. At the end of the day, software development is about driving value for your users and the enterprise, and you can do that most rarely as a product manager if you know what your company does, what those users want. So it's generally easier to do that than it is to, if you're a software program manager, you're probably not going to get hired at, a hard tech defense startup. Just there's so many leaps there. So I think that's kind of the easy answer there. And then be vulnerable. Like, hey, I know I need to go work on things. Here's where I'm at. Try and find a mentor or an advocate inside of that organization and take on that work even without the title. You can end up moving into those roles.
Yeah, that take on the work without the title. I'll say I think the barriers between roles are melting right before our eyes, like consistently. And so back to my earlier statement about what are the barriers to delivering value to the customer right now? Like, I have this funny anecdote. My partner is in org strategy in Salesforce, and she's having all these conversations about org strategy, and I'm listening in the kitchen making some food, and I'm like, I'm a product manager, but I'm like, oh my God, I'm actually doing org strategies to try to get this problem across the finish line. I'm like, all right, who are my advocates? Who are the people that are fighting against me? And how do I get everyone to align on the vision to get this? So I think one of the things that is going to continue to be the, I guess, desired attributes in candidates is the willingness to take on the problem whatever shape it takes, whether it's like working through the stakeholder objections, whether it's figuring out the right architectural design, whatever it is. You're going to have to hold engineers accountable or bring them to the table with different solutions. So I think all of those roles are kind of getting blended more and more as people, the things that I'm not good at, like I can go build out an architecture now and challenge my principal architect on like, hey, I think this is actually a better design, and sometimes I win. So yeah, I think the barriers to different roles are coming down.
Yeah, just pick one problem in the target company or your company, and then build it on the weekend in Claude. And then post it on GitHub.
Don't do that.
And then charge, well, no, but yeah, but I would say actually, like, say like, hey, this is what I thought into creating this, right? And the thought process is super important, like they would say, right? Because anyone can create an app. You know, Tom did it for this for the conference, but what went into that is what's more important.
To put Tom the example on thinking and Tom was able to do that because he has experienced the pain of having to do all of those product campaigns.
Yeah.
If any of us had tried to do that, we would have had a worse experience and a worse app. It's not just about the fact that we can say, make me an app to do this thing. You have to have main expertise, user empathy, ability to communicate things. None of that stuff goes away. Claude can't do that. So, thanks for the time, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.